there's somebody that you want to become, who around you, who in your life embodies those same characteristics, and how can you surround yourself with them? Like, what's the magnitude, and how do you guys implement community into Holo Health?
Your community is the strongest dose of accountability you will ever get. If I want to become truly healthy, I need to surround myself with the people who are also on pursuit of becoming truly healthy. And when I look at my life, it has been a result of the 2 to 3 to 4 people in my life at that time that I've been able to rub off with, do life with, ask questions, hang out, work out with. A community is not only integral to your health, but it's part of God's design, like you said back in Genesis. So that's how we do it.
You are listening to the Take a Step podcast, where we help young men reject complacency and take purposeful action every day. My name's Josh Johnston. Let's take a step. What is going on, and welcome back to the Take a Step podcast. I've got Alex Cottingham with us today. Alex, what's going on?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be on this podcast and talk a little bit more about some shared passions of both of ours. So I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. You know, it's just started raining out here, but I was thinking about going and getting some rainy miles in later on this afternoon. We'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I'm excited to hear a little bit about, you know, your story and what you've started. I came across Holo Health, which you started a few years ago, I think, but want to hear more about that. So I'm excited to dig into a little conversation. But I want to open up first just to let you introduce yourself, however you think it makes sense.
Yeah, my name is Alex Cottingham. I am the husband to Hannah. She's a much better half of mine. We have 3 kids, Andy, June, Crew, and Emma, who are 6, 4, and 2 currently. And we live in Cumming, Georgia. We are the owners of Cumming Strength and Fitness, which is a brick-and-mortar coaching-based fitness gym in Cumming. We also own Hannah Creek Photography, which is a photography business, and then also are the founders of Holo Health, which is essentially merging health and faith. Our mission is to redefine health that is anchored in Jesus, that encompasses your body, mind, and soul, because I have a lot of experience in the fitness side of things and the church side of things, but it is always segmented and siloed and separate. And this mission is to bring them together, because the more you dig into it, the more you realize they're aligned and connected. So that is a very quick snippet of me.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And there's a lot we can dig into with that, because there's like a lot of my passions are in the same vein. You know, strength and fitness, health and fitness, if you will, was, you know, a huge foundation of mine when I was really digging into my own, you know, personal journey, which surrounded me with the right people, which led me into my faith journey as well. So there's a lot that intertwines with faith and fitness in my story as well. So I'd love to hear from you, just because the idea of Holo Fitness or Holo Health fascinates me. But I'd love to hear a little bit about the origin, about, you know, was it just this idea that you were saying, hey, let's figure out how we can combine the two and build a community around it, or how did it start?
Man, that's a great question. Depends on how long or what version you want. I'll give you the middle version. We can either make it shorter or longer. Depends on how much time you want. So long story short, I grew up in the fitness space playing sports. I went to school for exercise science and dug deep and really got to know the ins and outs of health and fitness and physical health. I've always been a believer and a Jesus follower. Went to Liberty University for my undergrad in exercise science, but then I felt the Lord calling me into ministry and went into, got my master's at Dallas Theological Seminary, and really focused for about 4 or 5 years on more of my spiritual health side of things. And the more I realized that where I wanted to go took discipline to get there. And what I realized is that my physical disciplines and my spiritual disciplines have a lot more in common. I was on my way to the gym at 5 a.m. down at going towards Buckhead Church at a gym close there when I was working there. And I was like, man, I'm about to go work out. I'm going to train my body and improve my physical health. And then I'm going to go to this church that has a lot to offer me relationally, spiritually, even mentally and emotionally. But I all want the same thing. I just want health. I just want to be living life to the full, as Jesus says, or life that is truly life. And I know that when I am lacking physically, or I'm tired or exhausted, or just there's something going on digestively or whatever, it impacts my mind and my soul. And I was like, there's got to be a way that we can talk about this together, because through training and through coaching, it led to a lot of conversations, because you build relational equity with people. And we really started, it was a door opening to talking about the mental and the relational and the spiritual. And I was like, there's got to be a way we can do this in like one brand, like one path, rather than I'm going to go to the gym over here and it's just diets and exercise and that's all. But then I'm going to go to church over here and just focus on following Jesus. But even though it's this mental, internal, therapeutic like thing that I don't really involve community in, I was like, okay, health is more than just these siloed approaches to it. We have to have some sort of holistic, connected, integrated, robust, gritty version that encompasses all areas. That was the spark of the idea. And then we can kind of go into like where that's kind of taken shape, but that's kind of how it all started. And a lot of trial and error, a lot of writing, a lot of personal discovery, a lot of conversations like this. And ultimately, we fast forward 8 years later to Holo Health, where we've done coaching, we've done programs, we've done church seminars and workshops. We have a podcast, we've written 3 books now, and just kind of running in those lanes. So that's kind of a quickened version of how it all started.
Hey guys, we'll jump right back into the conversation, but I want to give y'all a quick look into MMP Customs. They make all of the Take a Step apparel, and they are the official sponsor of the Take a Step podcast. Check them out.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Mooney, co-owner of MMP Customs. We are a custom merchandise company specializing in screen printing and embroidery. If you're a business, band, school, or any other type of organization that needs custom merchandise, MMP Customs is the place. Whether you have a big apparel need for an event or need to outfit your company, we offer a no minimum guarantee and have never missed an approved deadline. At MMP Customs, you will experience the best customer service there is. Let our family outfit yours. Visit mmpcustoms.com. That's mmpcustoms.com.
Yeah. So as far as the vision of how you see it growing, are there specific avenues that you want to go down? Whether if is it more seminars, is it more workshops, is it more, do you want to grow via branding through the podcast and what you're doing from just an audience growth perspective, or what's the vision for how you want to grow it moving forward?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. It would be in-person seminars and workshops and coaching. We want to help the Jesus follower experience the truly healthy life that Jesus offers, experience health physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. And we have found the most success when that is an embodied experience. We've done both digital and in person. So really hosting either weekend or during the week 2-day seminars that we've been able to do recently, but then also do one-on-one coaching. And currently I'm doing like more one-on-one mentorship, which is kind of like half health coaching, half spiritual mentorship with a guy. That's been really fun going through our curriculum. So it really is kind of more like that group embodied seminar type piece, but then it's also like let's go one-on-one. It can be done digitally, but this is just a local thing that we go grab coffee. We actually go to Waffle House and dig through the content that way. But yeah, the mentorship and coaching, but then also the live workshops and seminars are the main focuses.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good all-star special that'll ignite some good deep conversation.
Come on.
So what is the what are the problems? Like when you are, if I'm somebody who needs the coaching, the mentorship, or it makes sense for me to go to a seminar, what is it that I am battling with or struggling with or seeking guidance with that would make so much sense for me to attend?
Yeah, what I would say is that you realize that there's a gap in your life, and that gap is what you read in the pages of Scripture when Jesus says, I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly, or life that is truly life. And he says that you may have peace. Don't in this world you will have trouble, but I've overcome the world. All these things like the fruits of the Spirit, such as patience or self-control. And then you see your actual life and you're running on empty, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, you're burnt out. And you're like, wait a minute. If following Jesus actually supposed to make my life look like this, but my life is actually looking like this, why is there a gap? Because I grew up in the church tradition that more biblical knowledge equals more spiritual maturity. The more I knew about the Bible, the better Christian I was. But what I realized is studying and going to seminary, studying the Bible for 2 straight years didn't make me any more of a better husband or father than I was 2 years ago. But actually putting into practice the spiritual disciplines is what made me a better husband and father and coach and owner and all these different things. So that's what I realized, is that my life should be vastly different than our host culture. I should be experiencing life to the full and exuding things like patience and love and gentleness and kindness, and just have this full life, rather than when you ask people, it's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm busy, I got a lot of stuff going on. Like, our lives should be different to that. And God calls us to stand out. And that's where I think we get it right in the church spiritually, like whether it's contemplative prayer or silence and solitude, Sabbath, meeting in community, all these spiritual disciplines, which will transform your life. But then what I say is, we need to talk about the physical disciplines as well, because what Trevor and I say at Holo Health is that they are the fuel to your spiritual engine. That if I'm doing all the spiritual things right, but I am lacking, I'm getting 4 hours of sleep each night, I'm eating processed foods majority, and I'm not working out or moving my body, I'm running on empty. I don't have the fuel so that I can listen to the Spirit, so that I can have the strength to love my neighbor well or focus when I'm reading scripture. So, and Jesus even said the most important command is to love God with all your body, mind, soul, or your heart, soul, mind, and strength, In other words, every part of us. And the church, at least the tradition I grew up in, equipped me so well in the mind and the soul part. But it's like, yeah, love the Lord your God with all your strength. What does that even mean? Like, what is the biblical theology of my body? And then once I started to realize, wait a minute, my body's not even my own. Like, Jesus resides in there, and this is a temple. This is his dwelling place. And I actually now am viewing what I'm eating and what I'm doing with my body at the gym as a means of stewardship, because this isn't even mine, and I can now glorify him and love other people better when I now encompass my body, not just focusing on my soul. So those are the type of conversations we're happening. And so, kind of going back to your original question, that gap, that's kind of the gap, is like, okay, hey, it's either a segmented approach, or you just feel like there's this gap and your life doesn't align with what Jesus says that living in his kingdom allows. And again, I'm not perfect, and me and Trevor say that, hey, this is not like we're speaking from a pedestal. We're speaking as people who are with you, saying, hey, we can actually experience life that is truly life, that Jesus talks about, life to the full, when we do these 7 habits, and they are just the foundation to kind of help us get there. So that's the quick summation.
No, that's perfect, because, and I love that you summed it all up with the concept of stewardship, because stewardship for me is what I've always focused on when relating health to my faith, because, I always go back to the parable of the talents, when it's just like, God's entrusted each and every one of us with a different amount of time, of talents, of abilities. And I like, you look at what he's entrusted you with, your health. It's like, if he's giving you a body that's capable of that's healthy and capable of growing, of developing, of living this life, like you say, to the fullest, why would we squander that? Why would we not take full advantage? And like, of course I would be a good steward of that, because it's what God's entrusted to me. Therefore, I'm going to, glorify him through my body and through the actions that I'm taking. And speaking of actions, you talked about the, you went through a few years of you knew your Bible, through and through. You it's not like you were lacking knowledge, but it sounded like, from what you were saying, what you were lacking at the time was the application, and like the actual, like, what are you actually doing with the things that you know? And that's been something that's so true for me. And on the Take a Step brand as a whole, one of the things I've always said is there's plenty of inspiration in the world, but there's not a whole lot of application. Like there's and I think for me, what I've seen, and there's plenty of good in the church, and I'm not trying to beat down on the church, because I've been, I've gone to church my entire life, and a strong believer. And what I've seen is that there's a heavy emphasis placed on, what do you know? Can you answer the right answer? Can you look the part? But what are you actually doing in your personal life to kind of sum up the equation of, are you getting inspired? Do you have the head knowledge? Now, are you applying it in your life? Does that resonate with you at all, in kind of your story and how this got started?
Yeah, spot on. I mean, Trevor and I say all the time that information plus application equals transformation.
Mm.
That I can know all the things, but if I don't do them, I mean, it's like paint sitting in a paint can. It does no one good until it's applied. So yeah, I mean that's spot on. And the thing that I was actually going to tell you too, just kind of piggybacking off what you said there, is that another gap that we found, Josh, was not just in the church world, but in the fitness world as well. Because when 8 years ago, when I had this idea, looking, okay, I want to follow Jesus with my body, mind, and soul. Like, I want to incorporate him into the fitness space. When I went and looked at all my favorite fitness influencers, there was a few that were outspoken saying, hey, I'm Christian, but none of them actually integrated what it meant to follow Jesus with their fitness side of things. Like, most of the time, what you find in the marketplace is, hey, if you want to get healthy, do diets, do exercise, do this boot camp, do this challenge. And honestly, it's primarily to look good, feel good, and be the best version of you, which isn't bad. That's how I started. But the more I dug into it, is like, wait a minute. Is this feeding my ego or is this feeding my soul? Like, is this making the center me the end of my own pursuit? Like, why am I actually wanting to look good and get healthy? Is it so that people can look at me, at my progress? Or is it about capacity and what God has done through me? And again, going back to that stewardship thing. So essentially, there wasn't a spot or a place that was really talking about, hey, let's get healthy physically and get healthy spiritually. There were some other pioneer ones, but it just vast majority was like, okay, health from a secular standpoint is just physical health only. It lacks Jesus in its equation. But then the church over here doesn't really talk about fitness or physical health at all. That's the gap that Holo Health solves. It bridges those two together.
Yeah, and like there's so much resonance in my story with that, because like my intro into fitness was solely an egotistical perspective on saying, hey, I grew up a little guy. I was in the church as well, but I was I didn't grow until later on in my life, and I watched a lot of my friends grow and develop a lot quicker than I did. And I got into college, and I was like, you know what? And I played college baseball, but I got there, and I was like, everyone else was kind of the best at their school too. It's not like I need to do something here. And my only answer was to start getting in the weight room. And for me, once I started to see those results, that's what drove me, is because I felt better about myself. Right. And as that's evolved over time, that got me around the right people. And I'm a huge advocate of community, and I know you guys are as well. But it got me around the right people that were willing to challenge me and tell me not only what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And at that point, that was, hey, am I actually living? Like, what would my actions confirm the person that I was claiming to be? And that specific encounter, it was with my faith. So like, it got me. Fitness got me. Or the ego perspective got me into it, got me around the right people. The right people got me back into the church. But it was cool how all of that intertwined over time. But to go back to it, it's like it started with me from an egotistical perspective that I would never go back to, and I try to help people through that all the time. But viewing it from a stewardship perspective gives you more. For me, I look at it and I'm like, I feel like it provides so much more value to the world to say, hey, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because of what I can do for my family, because of the example I'm setting for Christ. Like, that's another thing that I love to talk about, that a lot of people might cringe when they hear it, or might, they might not want to talk about it. But it's like, how am I glorifying God if I'm sitting on the couch being lazy and sleeping past the alarm and not doing anything physically to become the best version of myself? Like, is that being a good example? Is that being a good Christ-like example or not? And that's something that I try to communicate all the time, but it tends to ruffle some feathers at times as well.
No, and here's the deal. Sometimes feathers are meant to be ruffled, just no one enjoys it, because I'm with you. Now, here's the nuance that I like to say, though, is that this is not a means of salvation. This does not mean that if you do not prioritize your physical health, God loves you any more or any less. Like, salvation is in faith alone, by grace alone, through Christ alone. Like, it doesn't matter if you are 300 pounds or 30 pounds, or it doesn't matter your physical health. What I have realized is that it is almost, going back to stewardship, it allows me to experience the life that God has for me richer and deeper. Like, I can still experience the goodness of God and listen to the Holy Spirit if I am physically unwell or unfit or any of that. I just know that I can experience it much better when I am prioritizing my physical health. And like you said, am I glorifying God? I mean, what we say around Holo Health is that we do not want to be the healthiest versions of ourselves. We want to be a more accurate representation of Jesus. Like, the healthiest version of yourself still has you at the center. Kind of going back to that egotistical like root that you talked about, is because I hear that all the time. I just want to be the healthiest version of myself. I was like, I don't want to be the healthiest version of myself. You know why? Because it's still me. Like, and I'm a broken, fallen, sinful man. I want to rid me and fill me with the Spirit so people see Christ through me. That's why I want to follow Jesus with my body, mind, and soul, so that people notice something different. It's not feeding my ego, it's glorifying God. And that's when we essentially invite God into that. That's when that happens. So kind of going back to your analogy, is my behaviors are very, very similar to when I started. I still lift, I still work out, I still do cardio, I still do CrossFit, all those things, even before Holo Health. But it's all about the heart. Now it's about my conversations. I'm still lifting. I'm still doing the same things. The behavior's different. The behavior's the same, but the motivation and my why is vastly different. I don't want to be a healthier version of me. I want to be a more accurate representation of Jesus.
Yeah, that's a perspective shift I haven't heard, which I really, really like. It's not about being the healthiest version of yourself. It's about being an active representation of Jesus.
Yeah, an accurate representation of Jesus. And here's why. The call to follow Jesus is not the call for your life to get better. It is the call to come and die. That's what we miss. We realize, I want to believe in God and I want to give my life to Him so that I can go to heaven and I can have this great life. No. Jesus literally says, anyone who wants to follow me must crucify their flesh, pick up their cross, and follow me. It's not a matter of what I want in this world. The more I can put to death the desires of my flesh and align myself with the Spirit and say, God, I want you to be glorified in me and through me and by me. I'm just a vessel. Again, now my body is that vessel, or is that conduit in which God's love and His power in the Spirit is manifested here on earth. That is the more accurate representation of Jesus. But when I have unnecessary limitations in my life, such as unnecessary stress, anxiety, burnout, metabolic disease, because of my own unhealthy habits, I am now not doing what Christ calls me to do. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And that was a hard pill to swallow for me too. It's like, wow, that bar is high. But that's where in our curriculum we talk about what we say is the true health paradox, is that's where God's grace fills the gaps. That's the gospel. Jesus raised the bar so high that no one deserves to be in His presence. But that's what the power of the cross, that His grace fills those gaps. And we say, God, I cannot. You already did. And I fully surrender you. The days that I mess up, or the days that I don't live up to this standard, or the days I don't glorify you with my body, God, I thank you so much that you have already paid that. And that's why we infuse Jesus into our fitness side of things, because without it, it's just feeding my ego, making me the center of my universe. And that's not the call to follow Jesus. So we're essentially bringing in our biblical worldview, what the Bible says, fitness, all these things into the same conversation, because it is all one thing. It is just health. It is just faith. It is just following Jesus.
Yeah, man, that's such a great perspective on it, because it brings the gospel to the center of the fitness industry.
That's it.
And because all I'm like, just like taking your health and using that to communicate the message and the power of the gospel. That's so fantastic.
And here,
one thing I want to go ahead.
The last thing I'll add to that, Josh, and then we can move on there, is I am not speaking from a place of I have it all figured out at all. Many creative endeavors are very personal, because it's the very story that people had to overcome, or they had to write like a better story from. Meaning, this has been my story for 8 years. I wanted to look good, and then when I looked really, really good, got to the 6% body fat and was able to do all the things and winning competitions, I did that for 24 hours and realized, oh wow, this actually wasn't what I thought it was. It didn't internally satisfy like I thought it was. And that's where I coach people today, being like, hey, I can help you lose 50 pounds. What I'm telling you is, it feels good for about 4.5 hours. And then you still look in the mirror and be like, crap, I look better outside, but something is still going on inside. That's why we take this holistic view, because I'm still figuring it out, and that's why we never fully arrive this side of eternity of the gospel. That's sanctification. It's a point in a process. We're constantly becoming more like Jesus, but we never will fully get there. We will never fully become truly healthy. We're plagued by something on this side of eternity, but does not stop our pursuit nonetheless. So I say that because I'm right there with everybody. I don't have this all figured out, but this is the pursuit I'm on.
Yeah, dude, I've put out a post 1 or 2 weeks ago, like communicating that same message, because like for my brand, for the Take a Step brand, the mission I have for it is to redefine the way young men view success by shifting their focus from the destination to the process.
That's good.
And I say that because like I firmly believe in that, but while I firmly believe in that, I get caught up every single day and being like, God, why can't I be at that point just yet? Like I see the destination, I have this big vision for where I want to take it, and I can get so fixated on that to where I lose sight of my very own mission statement. So yeah, like in line with what you're saying, to everyone who's listening to, like any creator out there that is communicating a message that's trying to inspire somebody to live a certain way, or to fix their eyes on a certain point, them saying that is not preaching from a place of authority. It's almost always it's somebody that is on that same journey with you that is communicating that message, because it's the very thing that they need to hear. And that's so true about my story. So I love that you call that out. So thank you for doing that. One thing you talked about earlier that I want to go back to was how disciplines are kind of transferred from your health to your faith. I had one of my good buddies, John Starzewski, on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and something that he said, a quote that I say all the time now, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And that I heard you say that with how disciplined you had to be with your health. Waking up on time, showing up to the gym on time, getting all your lifts in, not slacking off on any reps, focusing in on your nutrition, saying no to certain foods, not eating past a certain time. They're all these disciplines. We have spiritual disciplines too. Are you, when is your time spent with God? What's your reading plan look like? How do you find, silence and solitude in your life? How are you being a Christ-like example? What does your prayer life look like? Like all these components, and not to make it, Christian, this like religious conversation, but at the end of the day, like there are disciplines that apply to both. And that saying keeps ringing true in my head, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So where from your experience, how have you seen those disciplines transfer back and forth between the two?
I mean, to be honest, I am now not even viewing them as physical disciplines or spiritual disciplines. They're just disciplines, because there's no such thing as your physical health or your spiritual health. There is just health. And the physical component is just 1/5 of the same pie. Like you have physical, mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual. They are all one slice of the same pie. They're not different slices of a different pie. Just as much as we have a physical, mental, emotional, relational, spiritual discipline, there are keystone habits that will move the needle the most. And that's what we focus on in the 7 Habits of Health. There's a lot of disciplines that are going to improve your health, but some will give you a very little return and some will give you a really big return. That's what we focus on with here at Holo Health. We call them the 7 Habits of Health, and they're holistic in nature. For example, habit number 1 is literally abiding daily. Finding a consistent time to spend time with Jesus. I know that this is a keystone habit because when I consistently don't abide, man, I am more stressed, I'm more anxious, I'm more prideful, I'm more tempted, I'm more irritable with my kids and my family. I know that that's going to impact a lot of different areas. Another keystone habit is moving often, exercise and physical activity. When I am consistently moving my body well, it's going to make me want to eat clean and get better sleep because I'm moving often. So not only are these 7 habits holistic, but they impact my body, but also impact my soul. Like when I consistently move, yes, I'm stewarding my body well, but I'm also clearing my mind, mental. I listen to worship music, so I'm giving God glory. I'm aligning with the Spirit, so there's that spiritual side. So I just look at it as a discipline. And the last thing, and this is a little pro tip, is the thing that I try to do is I try to either whether you want to call them habit stacking or habit combinations, I try to do 2 or more at the same time. For example, I tried to work out with a friend while we're listening to worship music. It's one of Trevor and I's favorite things to do. Whenever we get together, we will do a partner workout while we're blaring worship music. So we're cultivating community, relational. We're de-stressing mentally. We're obviously getting a good physical workout in, but we're also aligning our soul with the Spirit. It is some of the most filling, fun things I get to do throughout the week or every other week. And that's something like that. Or it could be simply walking and praying. There's nothing against sitting and praying. I do it all the time. But when I can, I'll go on a walk and pray. So I'm including my body. I'm getting the blood flowing. I'm better mental clarity. And I'm spending time with Jesus. I'm praying. I'm surrendering. I'm doing all those things. So I try to kind of stack those as well. But what I've realized is it's going to impact more than just one area. And again, going back to the Holo Health worldview, that we don't believe in these siloed areas. It's just one pie with different slices. And each discipline or each habit that we focus on are going to impact a lot of different areas and give you a good return on your investment, if you want to use that language. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I love it. Both those examples, like working out with friends, working out with the community, listening to worship music, going on a walk and praying, both of those are implementations that I actually implemented recently. Specifically, like the morning walk, I started going, I used to wake up, sit at the same place in my house, I have a morning nutritious drink that I drink, and I would sip on that, spend time with God, and like what I have to wake up pretty early to get everything I need to get done in the day, but I would find myself sitting on the base of my fireplace, and I would still be waking up, and I like mentally I just wasn't engaged, and I was like, you know what, let me try. I heard somebody talk about going for a walk and finding that time to get silence and solitude with God. So I started doing that instead, and I started going on a walk in my neighborhood. I get 1,000 steps in, gets me cognitive, gets me aware, and I also just spending time. No one's awake. It's still dark out. You're out in God's creation. You feel I feel the connection. I feel like I can be present, and that's been an implementation for me that's been hugely beneficial in my spiritual life.
And let's even go back. I'm going to piggyback off that because let's go back to the 7 habits of health. What we say about these 7 habits of health, again, the application of becoming truly healthy, health in every area, is that they align with God's design. Every habit that we do is not just, hey, what is popular in culture or what does science say, which is all true, but also let's go back to Genesis and see how God designed us. For example, God designed us to fill, rule, and subdue the earth. He gave us the livestock to look over and to farm and do work. We can't rule or fill or subdue the earth sitting on our butts, right? We could. We would be terribly inefficient. He put us in the garden to tend it and work it. But we look at our culture and how sedentary we are. I'm sitting right now. We sit in the car. We sit at work. We sit on the couch. We sit at the ball field. We sit at the coffee shop. Like, trying to incorporate more movement throughout the day is not just sexy or viral or what social media says. It's part of God's design back in Genesis. And that's, again, another small tidbit on how we're trying to align scripture and science. But, yeah.
No, yeah, and speaking of how God's designed us, it's a great segue. The first thing that God said was not good in Genesis. The first thing in all the Bible that God said was not good was that man was alone.
Yeah.
So, in transitioning into community, community is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I'm actually this next month I'm launching the Take a Step online community. It's going to be called The Tribe. Just kind of gathering young men who want to do life together, who want to push one another and hold each other accountable to being the man that they know that they want to be, and building a community and building authentic relationships around that. I'm so excited for that. But on the concept of community, one of my favorite quotes of all time, and Andy heard it from Andy Stanley: "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." If there's somebody that you want to become, who around you, who in your life embodies those same characteristics, and how can you surround yourself with them? And I want to hear from y'all, to what extent or to like what's the magnitude and how do you guys implement community into Holo Health?
Man, I'm so glad that we're talking about this. Well, the biggest way is it's the 7th out of the 7 habits of health that we focus on, because you cannot become truly healthy by yourself. The first 6 habits that we talk about are things you can do by yourself. Spending time with Jesus, sleeping well, eating clean, moving often, increasing clarity, and decreasing stress. Those are all solo endeavors. But what we say is that when we do, we will increase levels of health in every area so that we can love our neighbor well. And we cannot love our neighbor well, one, when we're too burdened with unnecessary limitations of our health in the first 6 habits, but also we cannot love people well if we're not with other people. So one, it's our 7 habits of health, and we say all the time that your community is the strongest dose of accountability you will ever get. 100%. Talking about application and who do you want to be, like we were talking about earlier, is if I want to become truly healthy, I need to surround myself with the people who are also on pursuit of becoming truly healthy. And becoming truly healthy is just our brand. Rather than saying health, we say true health, because true health is, again, a version of health that is anchored in Jesus, that encompasses your body, mind, and soul. So if I want to become truly healthy, it's going to be much, much harder when I am around people that are just pursuing culture's version of health. And I want to shout out Trevor here, because he loves community even more than I do, and I love it myself. But honestly, I am here on this podcast, or I am here as the founder of Holo Health, honestly, because of my community or the people that have been in my life ever since, I would say, middle school. I've had integral people pour into me, come alongside me, refine me. And when I look at my life, it truly is a living example of what you just said, Josh, is that it has been a result of the 2 to 3 to 4 people in my life at that time that I've been able to rub off with, do life with, ask questions, hang out, work out with. And my deepest brothers have always been the people that I've worked out with and that we have prayed or just kind of done some sort of Bible study after. That's one of my all-time favorite things. It's what Trevor and I get to do pretty consistently. Is we will do a workout, we'll just kind of bro it up, whatever, have fun, and then afterwards it usually transpires into some sort of deep conversation, like, hey man, how's your marriage, or how's your stress levels, or what's bringing you peace, or what's bugging you lately. And then we're vulnerable, we shed those layers, we're honest, we say the hard truth. And that's what community is. It's not just the 1 hour when you fist bump someone on a Sunday at church. Like, yeah, that's great, but it's in the trenches together, seeing each other consistently, doing life with like that. So you cannot become truly healthy by yourself. A community is not only integral to your health, but it's part of God's design, like you said back in Genesis. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, and I like something that's really unique to call out, I think, is, that those relationships, like those conversations, it's hard to find those naturally in the world we live in today. Like it is very hard to find people who are going to not only ask you, hey, what's going on, but what's really going on? How are you doing? Like you were saying, how are you doing in your marriage? Like, what are the things you're challenged with? What goals do you have set right now? How are you doing in relation to those goals? But like having those conversations, I think from my experience are what has built the strongest relationships in my life. And I didn't have that until my just brief background on me. I grew up in the church, but didn't really have a personal, I didn't really have a personal relationship with Jesus. And I attribute that really to like not surrounding myself with people where that was a focus in our friendship. And my mom was a great spiritual leader in our house. My dad was as well. But, that was like the main source of my spiritual nutrition was, what my mom was telling me growing up. So I had this like nurture, kind of soft pushover feel with what it meant to be a Christian. And I went to college, went to play baseball at a small college, but got surrounded with guys that I respected as a man. And those people were the ones that started to challenge me in not only in my spiritual life, but also, how is my performance on the field? What am I doing in the weight room? Holding me accountable personally. So like when it comes to my spiritual life, when it comes to my mental life, when it comes to my physical life, challenge me in all these 3 perspectives. And it was the first time in my life I had a guy that I respected that did that. And it was just a complete perspective shift because I had never experienced that before. So that was the reason why I had this kind of transition in my life to being able to start to pursue a more personal relationship with Jesus, because I had a new perspective on what that looked like. It wasn't actually soft to choose to follow Christ. It was it's actually what took strength. Because something one of my college coaches said to me was, what do you think is weak? Choosing to do what everyone else does, or choosing to stand up for what you believe in? And I'm
That's good.
Okay,
that's good.
That makes a lot of sense, because for me, I'm like, I associated the guys in my life that were outspoken about their faith to just be kind of soft or weak or pushovers. I'm like, that's not my crowd. And then once he said that to me, I'm like, I'm the one that's been being weak. I'm the one that's been weak, because I've chosen, good Lord, I've chosen just to follow what everyone else is doing, because it's like it's what seemed fun. But that's the easiest decision I could have made, rather than choosing to stand up for what I actually know is right, choosing to be different, because that's what takes actual strength. So like, I know that was a rabbit trail there, but for me, it all ties back into like, what is actually like, what actually takes strength, and what triggered that strength for me was being around the right people and being in community. There's an old Chinese proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's a quote I live by now.
Man, that is gold. I really don't have much more to add to community other than it's changed my life, and that's literally what Jesus left when he went back to the Father. Is he said, "Hey, I'm going to leave the Spirit, yes, but I'm also going to leave my ecclesia, my gathering, my group of people." He did not mean for us to just do life alone and just believe in Jesus and be the vertical. It was also meant to be the horizontal. And I've realized that when I incorporate that and my health into it, I get this holistic perspective. Yeah. It truly does help me live life to the fullest. So you can't, if you are wanting to become truly healthy or do this, you have to find some sort of community. And we're not talking about like dozens and dozens of people and always be active. We're just looking for those few brothers or sisters that can help you go further faster, that you can be the real you with. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So do y'all have anything at the Holo Health that kind of triggers that community? Because I know y'all have the seminars. I know y'all have, you're doing the coaching, the podcast. Do y'all have any sort of community approach to it?
I mean, I would say more informal than formal. I mean, honestly, over the past 2 or 3 years where we've taken people through different coaching and groups and church things, honestly, it has kind of formed like this Holo Health small community where we'll text like our go-to people, whether it's some feedback or something like that. When you go through our free online course on YouTube, there's 11 different interviews of people just on their experience talking about becoming truly healthy in their domain, whether it's parenting or entrepreneurship or just being a pastor or different areas like that. So it's not anything like formalized where it's like, hey, every 90 days we're going to go ahead and do this X, Y, or Z thing. But we're just trying to almost like create this community of people who are all saying, yeah, I want to become truly healthy. I want to integrate my health and faith. So more informally and indirectly than formally and directly.
Yeah, I love it. One thing I want to transition to is talking about how specifically like the world of entrepreneurship for you and stepping out and pursuing something on your own, obviously building Holo Health, but also the gym you own, the photography business. It sounds like you and your wife have. How difficult or how challenging has it been for you to believe enough in what you're doing and the value that it serves in order to know that and trust that that's going to provide a life for that you can build and sustain moving forward?
Ask your question one more time in a different way, because I think I understand it, but I want to just make sure I'm answering it correctly.
Yeah. So like for you, I'll explain it like this. Like one of the main reasons I started Take a Step was because I had this vision and I had this passion for personal development, for community, for this niche of young men, but I had no idea like what to really do about it. And for me, I was so scared of I was working a corporate job at the time. I was so scared to take that step out and actually pursue a passion of mine and trust myself enough to be able to build that into what I envisioned it to be. So for you, like, were there fears? So are there fears still that come into play as you continue to build the brand and build the businesses? like I want to hear about that. Specifically about like the fears associated.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't relate at all. I don't think I've ever experienced a fear or an anxious moment. It's been perfect bliss. And I mean, we're just starting 7 more businesses tomorrow because there's no fear associated. It's way too easy. I don't know why more people don't do this. Obviously, I hope you can sense the sarcastic nature in my voice because, it's been crazy and stressful and fearful. But what I've realized is that God does not call us into the comfort zones, that he is very strategically placed these seeds and planted these seeds in Hannah and I's heart, and he has given us the support system around us to just take these leaps, and we both had peace and clarity to do that. We did not have 100% certainty, and those fears were through the roof, but we prayed for boldness and courage and just kind of taking that leap of faith because we used to be under the security net of some sort of corporate job or employer that we could just rely on the paycheck or an external brand that we ultimately weren't responsible for. But for the past 18 months, that's not been the case. Like, it is on us. And here's the deal. It is so worth it. And here's why. Not from a financial standpoint or a business standpoint, because I do not want to go the rest of my life wondering what if. What if I started that podcast? What if I took over the gym? What if I went into ministry? What if that? And again, we're not called to be foolish and just jump left and right. But what I want to do is I want to be so attuned and aligned with the Holy Spirit and have the courage and the power in alignment with the Spirit that when he does open a door that I did not expect, I have the courage to walk through. That I have the mental health to recognize the lies from the enemy that the fears are coming from and say, God, are these coming from the enemy or are these legit something I should pay attention to? And when I actually surrender and submit those to the Spirit, and both Hannah and I have peace that, hey, this is what, like, we feel good about this and clarity, this is what we're going to do, boom, we walk through it. If you would have told me 3-4 years ago that this is what our life was going to look like, I would have laughed at you. Most people have that story. But when you are one, I do my absolute best to align my thoughts and my thinking and my decisions with what the Spirit says. And if I have peace and clarity from the Spirit, then I'm going to do it. And if not, then I'm not going to do it, because here's why. His track record is amazing. The past so many years of my life of trusting God to be like, hey, God, you are the provider. I am not. You are my perfect Father. You are my protector. I'm going to listen to you, because from my perspective, I can only see that next step. And there are so many fears of step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? But I don't want to just be so crippled and paralyzed with the what ifs. I don't want to live my life like that. I want to be sitting in my rocking chair in my nursing home when I'm 85 years old, being like, okay, I don't have any regrets. Whether I made $1 million or no money, it does not matter. Like, I want to live a rich, deep life where the ones that know me best love me most. And that's it. So you'll never, ever find someone that is beyond their fears, but it's what you do with those fears and how you align with the Spirit and replace those lies with truth that has made all the difference. So that's how I can speak into that.
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to James 1, 2 through 4. Like, it's one that anyone in this space, anyone in that kind of that is talking about a faith-backed approach to withstanding the hard times. I think it's a verse that comes to mind all the time. It's consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many times, knowing that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And then the next part is my favorite part of the verse. It says, but let the perseverance finish its complete work, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. And I think people always stop at like, all right, consider it joy when you face trials of many kinds, knowing that it's going to produce perseverance. That's great. Like it's something I can cling to, something I can write on the wall. That's awesome. But what does it actually look like to let the perseverance finish its work? It's not jumping out of the hard times when you're in the middle of the hard times. Yeah. It's letting the course play out, withstanding, continue to embrace the process rather than the destination. Yeah. Because if you're doing something, if you're building something that you're passionate about, you shouldn't do it because of an exit one day. You should do it because it's the fulfillment that comes out of the day-to-day, which is why you got into it in the first place. So yeah, I love that. I love like how heavy you hit on just the component of like, hey, yeah, it's hard at times. It's hard a lot of times, but at the end of the day, I know I'm doing what I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah, and here's the deal. That might change in a week, 2 weeks, 2 years, 10 months. Like, I don't know. I was in seminary 6 years ago. Now I'm leading a fitness gym and this health and fitness thing. Awesome. What I want to do is I want to say, Lord, you lead, I follow. It might be this 10 years down the road. It might be this 10 weeks. I don't know. But what I do know is I want to be faithful that whenever the Lord opens a door or says, hey, I want you to do this and move to a different country and do X, Y, and Z, awesome, great. Because I don't want to live with regret, and I don't want to live with like, oh man, God, I was too scared to listen to you.
Let me ask you this, just off the wall question: Do you ever like find it challenging to balance trusting God's sovereignty and like following what He has in store for you, combined with like the like control the controllables approach of like, hey, I'm trying to create my future. I'm trying to do what I know I can control and forget about the rest. But like this trying to control your future and build your future, because that's very apparent in the personal development world, which is what I'm in. So I constantly have this back and forth battle as far as like, I need to be very intentional about creating my future. Like I have the power to create my future. But at the end of the day, it's like God already has, predestined the path for me. So it's like, am I following God's path, or am I being very intentional about trying to create and control my future?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. He didn't predestine you to put your hands underneath your butt and just stay stagnant. What I've learned is that I've previously looked at it as a problem to solve, and this is a forever tension to manage. Because we see it as, is it this or this? Is it God's sovereignty and God, you're in control? Or do I just need to like go over to the personal development side, control the controllables, and have my 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan and know what I'm going to do for retirement? It's neither. Truth is always found in the middle. It's God, I trust you with your plan, but I'm also going to work my butt off and listen to you with what I need to do today. Because you called me to be faithful with today. And here's the deal. Being a father of 3 kids now, one of the deepest desires of my dad heart is to have the desires of one of my kids' hearts fulfilled. Like, I know my Heavenly Father wants me to succeed in what I want to do. But sometimes it doesn't look the way that I thought it was going to look, because He sees a lot differently than the way I see. I'm just seeing through my microscopic, myopic view. He's seeing all the different things, and He even knows 5, 10 years down the road. And actually, the life that I'm living now that I did not think was going to be 5, 10 years ago is so much better, because there's that peace and clarity from the Spirit and alignment, and He has prepared me for this very moment. So yes, I trust God because I'm such a planner, a future thinker. I want to know. I literally was talking to Hannah like, hey, in my 30s, in my 40s, in my 50s, I want to do X, Y, and Z. But what I've realized is I can have those sights, but I need to hold them open-handedly. I cannot do this. I need to open my hands and say, God, this is where I'm going. But if that doesn't happen, or something better happens, or something different happens, God, my hand is open, because I'm surrendering all those to you every single day. I'm surrendering Coming Strength and Fitness. I'm surrendering Holo Health. I'm surrendering my marriage. Because, again, going back to stewardship, it's not mine to begin with. This is a vessel. My time is temporary, going back to our biblical worldview, that I just want to do what God's calling me to do. So yeah, it's a both and. It's a tension to manage that we will forever manage. And again, I'm not saying that as someone who doesn't struggle with that, but I've definitely had to grow through that tremendously over the past 18, 24 months.
It's so good. One question I want to ask, just kind of as we move towards the end of the episode, is I love asking this question because it's so on brand with Take a Step, and just like choosing to, like we're talking about right now, like pursue your passion, pursue what you feel like God has in store for you, rather than just playing it safe. Like one thing you were saying, as far as like, I never want to ask what if, quote that I love, I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried.
Right.
It's like, at the end of the day, guys, take action on what it is you feel like you're called to do, or what you feel like your purpose is, what you feel like is going to bring you fulfillment. Take action on that, because if you don't, you're gonna leave yourself asking what if, and if you do and it doesn't work, hey, you at least did. You took the action, like the result, rather than having the unknown result. That was a side note, but at the end of the day, like in your opinion, how can younger guys who are in their 20s, getting into their early 30s, that kind of feel stuck, that kind of feel like they're at a phase in their life where they're whether if it's working the corporate job they can't get out of, like kind of working for the paycheck, living this unfulfilling life right now, but they have an idea for something that they want to do. how can they take that first step to taking more purposeful action and building a life that actually brings fulfillment?
This is going to sound so simple and so cliche, but I mean it with all my heart. Better. Just start. Just start. Shout out to this name, because take a freaking step. Take the first step, because you cannot optimize what you don't initially start. Like, I cannot make better Holo Health if I didn't start. And I say that because that was my story. I am such a pre-planner and control, like, where I want to plan everything out and make it perfect and then release it, rather than just start and orchestrate, evaluate, essentially do and correct as you go. And then that momentum actually helps, because what happens is it's so easy to let those fears, what we just were talking about, overwhelm your mind when you don't start. But when you start, you have momentum. You have something to focus on. And then that turns into iteration B, C, D, and E. Coming back to Holo Health today looks vastly different than what it did 8 years ago. Vastly different. But we never would have gotten here without that original iteration A, B, C, D, E, F, G over the past 8 years. So just start. It does not need to be perfect. Find that one thing and just start.
Yeah. And that, like, going back to my mission statement behind Take a Step, it's like so many people get consumed with the destination, where for a couple of different reasons it gets in the way of them ever just starting, right? Whether if it's the fear of, hey, like, they feel like they're not qualified to get to that destination or that vision they have. Like, that's like, I see other people doing it, but that's just not me. Or the fear of maybe taking that step and, the judgment that's going to come from others and trying to build something for themselves. There's a lot of fears associated with that. The paralysis by analysis of thinking that you got to have everything figured out in order to make it happen. You're not going to figure anything out before you start. Like the Donald Miller author I love reading from, he has a quote that says, those that take action on a bad plan will go way further than those that never take action on a great plan. It's like you can get bogged down in the weeds of trying to make sure everything's perfect for so long, but that first step is going to go way further than the days, weeks, months you spent planning to just get started. So yeah, I love that. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. Just start. Man, Alex, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've really enjoyed it. We need to get together for a lift here soon. You're not too far down the road.
You're always welcome to come on over to the gym. I mean, we're over in Cumming at Cumming Strength and Fitness. You're always welcome. So would love to make it happen.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope you've taken as much out of this conversation as I have. It's been awesome having you on the show. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Hey, and real quick, before we jump off, where can people follow along with what you're doing with Holo Health, what you're doing personally, Cumming Fitness? Like, where would you point people to if they want to follow along with what you're building?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the Cumming area and you were looking for a brick and mortar, like, coaching-based gym, we are CummingStrengthAndFitness.com. Just Google us. We'll pop right up. And same thing on Instagram. I would go to, if you were interested in Holo Health, HOLOHLTH. That is for not Georgia people or in the Cumming area. That is digital. That is, we don't have like a brick and mortar place. That is for the Jesus follower who wants to become healthy. We have a free online course that is on YouTube. We've created a digital workbook. We have supplementary podcast episodes completely for free, and just go to our website, go to Instagram, and just check it out and consume it. We have a podcast ourselves. I have a business partner, Trevor, that is amazing. I love him. He's way better than even me. So we also have I've written a few books on this, Becoming Truly Healthy. We do in-person seminars and workshops. So if that's something that interests you, whether it's for your group, your church, your business, or whatever, just reach out. But I would go to literally on Instagram or on Google, Cumming Strength and Fitness, but probably more importantly, Holo Health, HOLOHLTH.
Man, that's awesome. Y'all make sure to take him up on that. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. Wherever you're listening, guys, please leave a rating and review. And guys, no matter where you are on your growth journey, every mile begins with a step. We'll talk to you in the next episode.